Genghis Khan's influence on the world is defined by two massive opposing numbers. His wars are estimated to have killed 40 million people, yet his genetic legacy is so vast that 1 in every 200 men on Earth today is his direct descendant. This map shows the scale of the power that created that legacy. At its height, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific coast of China all the way to modern-day Ukraine. But despite this level of historical impact, no one knows where the man himself is buried. For 700 years, his final resting place has remained a total mystery. This wasn't a mistake. Before he died, the Khan gave specific orders. His tomb was to remain a secret, and he authorized his army to use any means necessary to make sure it stayed that way. An emperor of this magnitude doesn't just go missing. His disappearance was the result of a deliberate, military-scale operation to kill every person who knew where to look. The search for his body begins here, in the ruins of the Western Xia Empire. This was the site of his final campaign, a brutal invasion of the agricultural communities and rice-producing regions of northern China. It was during this conflict that the story of his death begins to fracture. Historians are left with 3 competing theories. Theory 1 suggests he was shot in the knee by an arrow. Driven by the momentum of the siege, he reportedly ignored the wound and continued to lead his troops until a severe infection took hold, killing him in his own camp. Because he died in the field, far from the Mongol heartland, his generals were faced with a massive logistical problem. They had to transport his body thousands of miles home without anyone noticing the procession. The second theory is less cinematic. It claims that during a confrontation with Xia forces, a group of horses startled the Khan's mount. He was thrown to the ground, suffered internal injuries, and died shortly after. Then there is the third, most violent account. It starts with a prophetic dream of blood and snow, which led the Khan to execute a Xia prince and kidnap a princess. According to this legend, the princess hid a small blade in her hair and castrated the Khan as he attempted to assault her. He bled to death in his tent, and the princess escaped his guards by leaping into the Yellow River. While the details of his death vary, every account agrees on what happened next. The Mongol army began a series of mass executions to bury the secret with their leader. The cover-up began on the road home. The soldiers escorting the body killed every person and animal they encountered along the way, ensuring no one could report the direction the funeral procession was traveling. Once the body was in the ground, 2,000 people were reportedly invited to the burial site for the final ceremony. As soon as the rites were over, the soldiers turned on the guests and executed every one of them. To hide the physical grave, they used 2 layers of environmental engineering. First, they ran 1,000 horses over the site to flatten the earth. Then, they diverted the Onon River to flow directly over the burial ground, making it impossible to dig for the body or even find the original surface. Finally, internal executions began. Soldiers who killed the funeral guests were executed by a second squad. That squad was killed by a third, then a fourth. This chain of assassinations continued until every witness to the grave or river diversion was dead. By the time the killing stopped, an estimated 40,000 people had been executed. The geographic coordinates of the tomb were gone, existing only in the minds of people who no longer existed. With no facts left to follow, the world turned to folklore. Myths began to circulate about a shamanic curse, claiming that 1,000 spirit guards protect the resting site, and that disturbing the Khan's rest would trigger the end of the world. In the modern day, the protection is less supernatural and more legal. The region where the tomb is suspected to be is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, strictly protected by international law. Because excavation is strictly prohibited by law, this vast mountain range remains completely untouched. Even with satellite imagery and modern archaeology, the area is too massive to search without a starting point. 700 years later, the Mongol army's plan is still working. The silence they engineered has never been broken. Of the 3 stories of his death, which one do you believe?